Hey, what's up? It's Comic95, the Savior, and for this video, I want to talk to you about the most important thing that you can possibly teach your students as an English teacher in Japan. And to put it quite simply, it's diversity. You, as a foreign teacher, should know better than anyone what it's like to be different from everyone else, to be an outcast, to look different, to have people staring at you. And secondly, second to that is the importance of learning English or being bilingual. So, first things first, it's a privilege if it never even crossed your mind to teach a lesson on diversity. And don't think that you have to get completely sidetracked from whatever, you're currently teaching or whatever you're working on, but find a way to implement this. I personally always wait until the end of my time teaching. So for example, at my last job during the last semester, I literally dedicated the last 2 days of lessons both telling my students the importance of, not making fun of people and about understanding people with different hair types and hair colors and skin complexions and skin types. But I also explained to them the importance of standing up when you see people make fun of them, as well as with language, how it's not cool to make fun of someone that can't understand you, and the importance of being able to speak English and how much their parents love them and how much their parents are spending for their children to be bilingual. So of course you want to talk in a way that is appropriate for your age group. I would speak to 5 and 6 year olds, or 6 going on 7 year olds. So of course the older they are, the more you can go into detail about this. And as always, you should know this as a teacher. You can't take it personally. Different groups of kids will change how seriously they take you. You'll have kids that'll laugh and joke about it, but when they see that you're being serious, like at first my class thought it was a little bit funny when I showed them different hair types and different skin complexions, etc. But when I got serious with them and I explained, hey, that's how my hair looks, or hey, my sister, she's that complexion, it was no longer funny to them anymore when they saw that it related back to their teacher. Have them look at themselves. So think about it. Everything's funny when you're in Japan, when you see something that doesn't look Asian as a Japanese kid. But imagine I tried to have my children, picture being from my perspective. Imagine being in my country where it's not common to see people that look like you. Would you feel good if people made fun of you because of your hair and your eyes and your skin? How would that make you feel? And so of course they told me to make them feel sad and they wouldn't feel good. And so we brainstormed and we talked about different ways that you could stand up for people and what are some nice things you could say about people. How can you make them feel comfortable? And letting them understand that people don't choose the way that they look. I didn't choose my race. I didn't choose to have curly hair. I didn't choose to have, dark skin. Have them think and understand all of these different things. So you don't have to go into super, super, super deep detail, but there's lots of fun activities where they can do like an all about me worksheet, and they can, draw and color a picture of themselves, or draw and color a picture of their friends once they're done, and their family, and talk about, the differences that they have. Maybe some students have brown hair. Maybe some students have bigger eyes than others. So just really think about the things that make them different. And help them to understand that being different doesn't make you bad. It doesn't make you scary. And there's nothing wrong with being different from everyone else. There was a student in my class that was Indian, and I think that he felt ashamed of having the darkest picture when they were done doing their all about me's. So of course I colored myself too, and I gave myself the same complexion as him. He's darker than I am, but it doesn't matter. We're both brown toned people. Doesn't make a difference. I used the exact same shade as him, and I made it clear to him, is anything funny? No. We're the same. We're all human. And I even told him, I was like, my sister is the same shade as you, and it's beautiful. I think that people oftentimes overlook in international schools the students that are foreigners. A lot of the teachers tend, no shade, no offense, tend to be white guys and even white women. And they're not concerned or thinking about race. They see all the kids as being the same. They're all Asian. They're just trying to, be the cool blonde with blue eyes. People taking pictures of you outside at the park. Put on your shades and look like you're having fun, etc. But they don't think about how their students feel. Especially the students that are not the ideal type of foreigner. Thus being, from South Asia, or, being black or African, whatever you happen to be, or mixed race. They often go unnoticed, get left out, and foreign teachers don't notice, they don't nip it in the bud, and they don't handle the bullying the way that they should. Instead of calling it what it is, racism, prejudice, discriminatory acts, instead it's, oh, this kid just doesn't like that one, or oh, this kid is just a loner, when really there's more to it. This kid is an outcast because they don't look like everyone else. People think they're dirty. People think they're not cool because they have dark skin. And I noticed that at my last job, the Indian kids and the Turkish students, so Middle Eastern and South Asian students, weren't being treated well. They were often left out of sports and games. And when we played games together with other classes, I noticed that the students would not share. They would not take turns with my students that were Turkish and Indian. And so I stepped in. I didn't like what I saw happen. I noticed that my co-teacher's class, they were playing a game of soccer. And, I'm sorry, not soccer, hockey. But like soccer like style. I can't explain it. Anyway, once they were done playing, they wanted to play something else. They handed their jersey out to the Japanese girls in my class, but none of them wanted to play. The only student that wanted to play for my class was the one Indian boy. They literally walked down the line and asked all of the girls in my class if anyone wanted to play, despite the fact that this was a boys' game that was going on. They were determined to not give that jersey to him. So instead of properly handing it to my Indian student, they threw the jersey on the ground. And what do you think I did? I went, got that boy, and I told him, how do you think that made that student feel? Was that nice? Would you like it if you wanted to play and people passed over you, and then if that wasn't enough, then when they got to you, instead of handing it to you politely and saying, here you go, they just throw it and have you go get it like a dog? So I had them go pick it up off the floor and apologize to my student. As a teacher, it is our job to be observant. You have to look and see what's going on. You should be the one to catch these things. It shouldn't be a student. My student that was Indian, he was shy. He was never going to go home and tell his mom or dad what happened. He wasn't going to come and tell me that these students are being racist towards him. He wasn't going to tell the principal. He was going to pick it up off the floor like a dog and go play. And I was not going to let that happen. And sure, I can overlook it. Indians and black people don't have the best relationship where I come from. But do two wrongs make a right? Should I be unfair to a child because of that? If you're watching this video, it's very likely that you happen to be a white foreign teacher. And with that said, please don't let the ball drop. You have so much more power than I will ever have when it comes to talking about race. Not just because of the privilege that you have, whether you want to admit it or see it or not, but because when you speak, it's naturally coming from a point of view that is not biased. If I want to talk about race with my students respect my opinions and thoughts because they love and like me as a teacher. But to hear someone like you speak on these matters as someone that doesn't have dark skin, that doesn't have, kinky, coily hair, it's so much more meaningful and powerful to have someone else teach them about diversity. Don't get it twisted. If you are from South Asia, or you are African, or you are Black American, whatever you happen to be, you can do the same thing. Please, please, please don't let your students leave you without teaching them the importance of not only, avoiding teasing or making fun of people, but teach them how to stand up for others when they see people being teased, when they see people being made fun of. Help them understand how they can work together and how to include people, how they can make other people feel at home. Help them understand why their parents put them in this school, why they want them to learn English. You don't have to make teaching diversity a very boring, long lecture. There are books that you can read to your students. There are activities that your students can do both online and in class. You can pull up pictures on Google and talk about them. Use pictures of your friends and family members. Take random pictures from Instagram. Make a slideshow. Do whatever you want to do, but please, 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 find a way to incorporate race into your lesson. This is not to make students feel bad for being the majority, but rather to teach them that they're in a position where they can help minorities, where they can be the bigger, better person, where they can reach out to someone and be their friend. It is 2020 going on 2021, and this video will remain on YouTube years from now. It is ridiculous and sad that we live in a world where racism still exists, where there are people that are not used to seeing people that look, talk, or act like me. I don't want that to exist. I never want a student to leave me and go on to be a high school student that teases and mocks a half-black kid, or that teases and mocks a dark-skinned, assistant language teacher that they have in high school. I want them to think back to when I was their teacher, to remember what I taught them. I want my college students, my high school students that I've taught, I want them to step up when they see someone being bullied or harassed out in public or on the train, etc. Not everyone's going to be brave enough to do this. And even if they don't step up or intervene, I understand Japanese culture runs totally different. I want them to not participate. One of the other important lessons that I taught my students is a very valuable piece of information that I learned from my mother years ago. And while I don't agree with everything that happened to me growing up, there are some good things that I got from my parents, and this is one of them. If you laugh when someone's doing something wrong, you are just as bad as the person that did it. I think we've all been in a situation where something bad or embarrassing happened to us, and we were disappointed and let down by seeing someone that we loved, someone that we liked, one of our friends, one of our family members, our crush, laughing and poking at us too. It's one thing for your enemies, people that you're not friends with, to laugh at you, make fun of you, but it hurts so much more when people that you know do it. Maybe you don't know them. Maybe it's just because the person is sitting right next to you. I explain to my students ghost seating, believe it or not. I talk to them about it. I didn't directly talk about my personal experiences per se in detail, but I helped them to understand how would you feel if anywhere you sat down, people instantly got up because they didn't want to be next to you because you were deemed as scary or dirty. Would that make you feel good? Help your students think back to their own feelings. How would things make them feel? And of course, I know that we're in a pandemic right now, and so obviously people like having extra space, but you get what I mean. Use your opportunity as their teacher to teach them something new beyond just learning English, but a real life skill. And that life skill is simply being empathetic, being sympathetic, being caring, taking initiative, being the bigger person, and doing what other people can't and won't do. Because unfortunately, they will probably never get another opportunity to learn about race, diversity, outside of your classroom. It will never be the way that you can teach it. And the very last thing, as far as English goes, help your students to understand the importance of being bilingual and why and how they should take learning English seriously. Explain to them the sacrifice their parents are making, the money that they're spending, the time that they're using to be able to afford for their students to learn English. And about how grateful they should be to be able to learn English from a native speaker or someone that is native fluent like you are. Don't make your students feel bad for having parents that are doing this for them, but help them to understand that they are lucky. They have an experience that other people wish they had. Maybe even their parents wish they had gone to school and had a native English speaker teach them how to speak English from such a young age. Or maybe have private lessons as an adult, a young adult in high school or college, whatever. You have so much power as their teacher. There's so many things that you can do. You can really help change the way that Japan views race, that Japan views English. Teach them to accept and to love others, to not poke fun at others for being different from them. And be observant as a teacher. Watch your students. Look at how they interact with each other. Don't just write it off as, oh, that kid's weird, or oh, that kid just likes to be by himself. Maybe that kid feels like they can only be by themselves or keep to themselves because nobody wants to play with them because they're different. You have to pay attention to your students. Many of them are shy And even the ones that aren't necessarily shy, they're embarrassed or ashamed to tell you what's going on. They don't feel comfortable telling you that they're being teased or bullied. And don't overlook your Japanese students. It's not always just the foreign kids. It can be your Japanese students. Maybe they're being abused at home, etc. Be observant. You have to look for signs. Everything's not going to be obvious. Be loving towards your students. Take advantage of any type of time or opportunity that you have to show them love, show them that you care about them. Buy appropriate gifts for your students. Say nice things to them. Compliment them, praise them, make them feel good about being in your classroom. Everything does not have to be you being the big loud gaijin, putting on a circus show to seem like you're a good teacher. Be personable, be real. Everything is not about trying to be everyone's favorite teacher and getting likes, but be real with them, be sincere, show that you love them. I've talked about this before, and I've recently even said this in an interview that I did, but my best experience as a teacher were these two things, or really three. I had a student that really did not like taking the bus. She kept complaining that she was being bullied on the bus, that people were making fun of her name, etc. Until she met me. I was their new teacher. And I used to have bus duty one day out of the week. And on the day that I would have bus duty, it was the only day that she really, really was excited to get on the bus because I would go take her there. And eventually she went from being a quiet and shy student to being outgoing. She started doing her homework and she was happy to be at school. I was able to talk to her mother about this. And because of her experience with me, her mother changed her mind. She was going to pull her out of the school. She kept her there. I had 3 other students who weren't doing their homework prior to me being their teacher. And because I would praise them and be like, what? Such and such did their homework. No, it couldn't have been you. That couldn't have been you. No, that's not you. It would make them smile from ear to ear. And I had no idea that my student was doing their homework because of my reaction to them doing their homework. Until I had parent-teacher conference. And it honestly almost brought me to tears. My students' parents told me that they weren't used to being praised like that at home. And that they told their parent that they wanted to do their homework because Miss Ren's gonna be happy. And that made me happy. What I thought was just a silly ongoing joke because I had a student that wouldn't do their homework unless I threatened, to not let them play at the park, which I never carried through with my word on that because I never feel right with banning a kid from recess. I had days where I missed out and it just wasn't for me. I couldn't do it. But they never caught on. It convinced them to do their work. But what kept them doing it wasn't my threats because I never carried them out. It was they wanted to get complimented in front of everyone. They wanted to be praised. You might be the only person that hugs that student. You might be the only person that listens to that student's crazy story about their Batman versus, the creeper from Minecraft fight. Listen to them. Play with them. Talk to them. And by doing this, you open up the opportunity to speak about race. You can help them learn English by being an open book for them. And now that they have such a good relationship and such good open communication with you, they're not going to want to even think about being prejudiced or racist because they're going to remember that cool gaijin teacher that they had. And when they see their friends in elementary or junior high school laughing at their teacher because they have a big nose or because they have dark skin or because their nose sticks out, they're not going to see that as funny. Why is this funny? They can't help it. That's how they were made. So what? Our eyes are small. Is that funny? You want students to be like that. People make mistakes. They're kids. They're human. You can't hold it against them. But ultimately, at the end of the day, you really, really, really want to try your best to help them, both as individuals and, of course, you want to think about their future, their career, the world, the next generation. Your students have their own individual personal problems, and they also have problems that they aren't so much personal for themselves, but for other people, where they can make a difference in someone else's life. I think we've all had at least one situation in our life where we felt lonely, maybe, and someone came in and cheered us up and became our friend and invited us and included us in their circle. I want my students to be like that, and you should want the same too. So that's that. If you get nothing else from this video, please be observant. Please be observant of what's going on with your students. Listen to them. And my last thing, so I tell you about my student with the bus, and I tell you about my student not doing their homework. But I also had a student who everyone thought really had a learning disability in a similar situation. That student was going through a lot. Parents were divorced, was ashamed to be raised just by, his mother and his grandma mostly. He just wanted a friend. He wanted someone to listen to him. He wanted someone to give him jobs, to make him feel important. He was an only child. And one of the most heartbreaking things that he told me was that he wasn't really close to anybody, that he doesn't really have a best friend. And I felt like I failed him as a teacher. I am with you more than your parents are. How do I not notice that you are not close to not a single person in this classroom? So what did I do? I went out of my way, switched around seats, switched partners, found a way to get him involved with other students. We talked about how can we make new friends. What should we do if someone seems left out, they're sitting alone? Think about these things, talk about them with your students, and actually make sure that they're carrying these things out. Observe them when you're playing at the park. Don't get so caught up in your head as the foreign teacher trying to look cool, trying to be photo ready, etc. You need to be a real person. If when you go to the park, all you're worried about is making sure a kid doesn't fall and making sure that you look good for the strangers that are going to be, taking videos and pictures of you, then you're not doing your job as a teacher. You should be looking at who has a friend, who doesn't, who's lonely, who's not, who's being bullied, who's not. And fix it. Do what you can to make things better. So that's that. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you found it helpful or have anything you would like to add to it that you personally like to teach your students working at an international school, please leave it in the comments down below. I would appreciate it if you would like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. If you haven't already, you can also follow me on Instagram and Twitter, and I have a Snapchat and a Facebook page as well. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.